you'll find. Godspeed, John Glenn.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
1-0. Liftoff. American return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, roger. Go for deploy.
Everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Welcome live to NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we are just about 30 hours away from the return of human spaceflight to American soil. I'm Joshua Santora with NASA Communication here at the Kennedy Space Center, and I'm so glad you're joining us for this question and answer session. You saw just a second ago the amazing guests we have today. Make sure you're asking your questions. We will take those live in just a few minutes, and without further ado, we want to jump right in. So first up, we have NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. And we have astronaut Nicole Mann. Astronaut Kjell Lindgren. And Kennedy Space Center Director Bob Cabana. All right, a huge thanks to you four for joining me today. Super excited to share this moment with you all, share this history with you all as we're creating history. I'm going to go ahead and start off here a little bit. Mr. Cabana, first question to you. You're coming up here as you're almost the longest serving center director in the Kennedy Space Center history. So congratulations on that. Super excited for your leadership and for where we've come from. I wanted to ask you, tell us a little bit about the past almost 9 years. The retirement of the Space Shuttle program marked the last time we flew humans in space for America, and we're about to do it again. So what's that process been like for the Kennedy Space Center and for NASA?
Well, it's been a huge transformation, Josh. First off, it's great to be part of another awesome NASA social, and couldn't be more excited about tomorrow's launch. After 9 years without launching humans from the Kennedy Space Center, last flight was July of 2011 on STS-135 Atlantis, and now we're getting ready to launch Crew Dragon on a Falcon 9 tomorrow from Pad 39A. You know, the transformation that we've gone to, the team just did an absolutely outstanding job. I mean, it was depressing here after that last shuttle flight. The Constellation program had been canceled, and we had to redefine what we were going to be here at the Kennedy Space Center, redefine what we wanted our future to be. And turning into this multi-user spaceport, these public-private partnerships that we have, it's a new way of doing business, and it's great for our country. And so we have evolved. We utilized excess capacity that we had from the shuttle program to enable these new commercial operations. On Pad 39A, we signed that agreement with SpaceX in July of 2014. In January of 2017, 2.5 years later, they flew the first mission off it. And they've had over 18 successful flights off that pad now as we get ready for the first humans to launch off that pad for the commercial crew program on that Crew Dragon. And it's just truly exciting, just an awesome job by the KSC team making that transformation happen, a great future.
Yeah, it's interesting. People may not really believe us when we say it was depressing, but it was. Like, it was a really tough time here, and the energy is just growing now. For the past few years, we've seen the energy just on the rise. Mr. Bridenstine, next question to you. Obviously, that energy is not building to a single moment. That energy is building towards a future. So as we fly this mission, as we look to the future, what can people look forward to in the next 10 years of human exploration?
So I think, Bob hit it just right. He talked about a multi-user spaceport. Well, we want space itself to also be multi-user. So we're looking forward to a very robust commercial marketplace in space. We want NASA to be a customer, one customer of many customers. And we want to have numerous providers that are competing on cost and innovation. That includes launch, but it also includes habitation. So the future with commercial crew, with commercial resupply, with the multi-user spaceport is exceptionally bright. But it's all about commercialization of low Earth orbit so that we can use NASA's resources to do the things that have not yet been commercialized, like go to the moon and onto Mars. But all the while we're doing these things, we're thinking about how can we commercialize this so we can get resources that are not from the American taxpayer. The reason Apollo ended is because it was a 100% government program without commercial interest. Well, we're doing things differently this time. We're going to the moon sustainably, and we're going on to Mars. And what we learn in this program, the Commercial Crew Program, is going to inform how we have sustainability well beyond low Earth orbit, all the way to the moon and onto Mars.
When we talk about commercialization of space flight, I think people probably think of commercialization of air flight. I hope that they do. Right. And I know you've talked about that some this week. Is that really the vision? Are we talking about like a robust space flight commercial existence where people are just buying space tickets?
I mean, that would be nice if we could get there, but we have to remember where we were in the dawn of aviation. Where we were, we think about barnstormers and airmail pilots and daredevils. Like that was the realm of aviation at its dawn. And then we had a gentleman step up, a hotelier in New York. Ortigue was his name, and he created a prize. They called it the Ortigue Prize. And a guy named Charles Lindbergh stepped up to the plate and he said, I want to win that prize. I'm going to fly across the Atlantic. And all of a sudden, Charles Lindbergh traveled the country. This is another important statistic. 1 out of 4 people in the United States of America saw Charles Lindbergh with their own eyes. He traveled that much, and he was that inspirational to all of America. And what it began really a dawn of the commercialization of aviation. But remember, it was still exceptionally expensive. Only the rich people could do it. Well, look where we are right now in human spaceflight. It is true. It is still exceptionally expensive. What we're doing, though, is we're driving down the costs. And over the course of time, we want it to become more normalized. Now, is it going to be one of these things where for $150 you buy a ticket from Dallas to Houston or whatever it is? Probably not in the near future. But if we're going to achieve what we want to achieve in space exploration, we have to drive down the costs. We have to let people see the value of microgravity as a resource. And that value, of course, is in pharmaceuticals, immunizations, advanced materials, all of these different things that we're proving on the International Space Station. So I really think we're at the dawn of a new era in spaceflight, just like we were at the dawn of a new era in human flight within the atmosphere.
Yeah, and as we wait on that space flight ticket to get down to the $100 range, we have our heroes to help get us there and lead the way for us. We're joined with 2 of you this morning, so thanks again. Nicole, question for you. You're coming up on your rookie flight. Obviously, that's got to be just energizing to see a couple other astronauts about to strap into a brand new spacecraft. On the Boeing commercial crew flight test, you're going to be on that flight for your rookie flight, a brand new spacecraft. What's that energy like to think about that moment in perspective of, hey, we're doing this tomorrow for the first time and you're going to get that chance soon?
I tell you, it's just incredibly exciting. I mean, honestly, it makes me feel like a little kid. I remember being in my test pilot tour and interested in becoming an astronaut and reading the bios of, Colonel Hurley and Bob Behnken, the 2 gentlemen that are going to be launching tomorrow, and really honestly viewing them as heroes, and then getting to meet them for the first time when I came down at NASA as an interview, and then having the opportunity to work with them over the past 7 years. They've been great mentors, and it's really like a member of your family having a huge lifetime success and reaching a goal. And so I'm so incredibly proud of them and so happy and excited to watch them launch tomorrow. And personally, it's something I look at and say, gosh, I can't wait to do that, and I'm going to have the opportunity to do that next year. So I pay very close attention to everything they do. Hopefully I can pick up some tips along the way, but it's just such an exciting time for us to be launching from American soil again.
Yeah, one of the things I continue to hear from astronauts as they talk about their training is the fact that they are learners. I think at the core of every astronaut that I've seen, they like to learn. They want to learn. They want to gather knowledge and learn from those things, always picking up new things. So appreciate you again. Chell, for you, you were here almost a little over a year ago with the Demo 1 NASA social group, speaking with them. Obviously, I'm sure there's a part of every astronaut, if you're not strapping in, that you want to be the one strapping in. You've flown once. You got to harvest the first veggie harvest, which is amazing. So as you think about your hopeful next flight, what's the energy like for you and kind of thinking to the future?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a privilege to be here and so exciting to be here just a day away from the launch of this new vehicle. And I do think back to that NASA social just a little over a year ago with Demo 1, and just the enthusiasm and excitement in that crowd, and getting to share a little bit of the insights from getting to live and work in space and the idea of launching on a rocket, getting to share that with that group, and knowing that NASA social group is replicated all over our country and all over the world. The interest in what we're doing here and what we're aiming to do tomorrow really cannot be overstated. This is such a hard thing to do, and to watch how the partnership between NASA and the commercial companies has just matured over the past few years, and to be a part of that. You know, I have gotten to serve as the backup for both Bob and Doug and for the Crew 1 crews that are in training with SpaceX. And to have gone through that training, to see Bob and Doug have given their inputs and into the test and development, and for this whole team to have gotten to where we are today is really just been, it's hard to describe what that experience has been like. To see them have gone through the dry dress and to put those suits on and go out to the pad and get into the vehicle, and to know that we're doing that for real tomorrow is just absolutely spectacular. And so I am incredibly excited for them, for their families, for the NASA and SpaceX family, and for our country as we start this new adventure tomorrow.
Yeah, some amazing points there. Obviously, Doug and Bob, I know it was mentioned during the media briefing we had just before this program that these two gentlemen that are flying tomorrow, they're dads. They're humans, they're men just like the rest of us. And ultimately, we are grateful for their service and for what their family is giving up as well. And so heroes and men alike. We're going to jump right now to the social questions. So if you have questions, add those on the chat window, and we're just going to kind of rapid fire through these for as much time as we've got this morning. So Mr. Bridenstine, question for you. Do you have any interest in being an astronaut?
Oh, are you kidding?
If you got offered that seat?
Look, I would love to. Unfortunately, I got to do everything vicariously these days. But no, I certainly, I said it just a few days ago when Bob and Doug arrived here at the Kennedy Space Center. I said, when I grow up one day, I want to be like Bob and Doug. I think all children grow up wanting to fly higher and faster than anyone else, and I was in that mix myself. So, yeah, I would love to fly one day. And you know what? Given how rapidly space is being commercialized, there might be that opportunity.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed for all of us.
That's right.
Another question, run down the line here. Where will you be on launch day? So where are you actually watching launch from? We'll start with you, Mr. Bridenstine.
OSB 2.
Okay, so that's actually, for those that don't know, it's a balcony. It's a really nice viewing spot. You can see the landscape in most of the launch pads. Hard to beat that view.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Nicole, where will you be?
I'm not 100% sure yet, wherever they tell me to go.
Shell?
And I think I'm in the same boat. I believe that I'll be in OSB 2 as well.
Okay, great. And Mr.
Well, you're
Cabana?
both invited.
So you just got us a seat. Thanks.
There you go. Hey, listen, we're making things happen here on the NASA Social. Mr. Cabana?
I'm going to be supporting the administrator in OSB 2.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of very important folks like these up there watching. Again, they get the amazing view, but there's lots of great views. Anywhere around the Space Coast is a great spot to view from. All right, other questions.
I need to view it from somewhere where I can't mess it up. That's my goal.
There's no random buttons around, nothing close.
That's right.
Lean on something. There was a question about astronauts, and there's a number of questions coming in about astronauts. So what does it take to become an astronaut? So Nicole, I'll start with you, and then Shell, I'll have you answer as well.
That's a very common question, and I wish there was, maybe a recipe or a formula for that. But I think the one thing that all astronauts that I know have in common is that they're very passionate about whatever specialty they chose in life. So whether it's a military pilot, or they're a doctor, or a scientist, or an engineer, it's not really the end goal of becoming an astronaut, I think, that you should focus on. It's the goal of doing something that inspires you, something that you love, and then do that the best that you can possibly do. And as you go through that process in life and you get more experiences, you'll see a lot of different doors open up. And if becoming an astronaut happens to be one of those doors as well, then you can go forward into that path. But it starts early in the beginning by, just doing well in school, taking care of your body, and finding that love and passion in life.
So I want to put you on the spot for a second
Yes.
and ask you if that's what you did, and if that is what you did, what were you pursuing that astronaut became the option?
Yes, so actually I had no idea when I was young exactly what I wanted to do. I went to the Naval Academy and I knew that I wanted to serve in the military, and I knew early on that I wanted to be a Marine. The summer before my senior year, I got to ride an F-18, and that was the first time I realized, wait a minute, I can be a Marine and an F-18 pilot at the same time? Like, best of both worlds, let's do this. And so it was really just that service to my country which got me involved. At the same time, I was an engineer, and I kind of missed the nerd side of everything, so I went to test pilot school and flew the F-18 and was able to do engineering as well. So again, kind of best of both worlds. And it was really during my time there at test pilot school that NASA was accepting applications, and I started to learn more about the process and read some of those bios of these other folks that served in the military and were also astronauts. And so it was really an evolution, a process that got me to this amazing place that I am today with these awesome opportunities.
Cool, thanks for that. Chell, question to you. What's it take to be an astronaut, and specifically, what advice would you give to students?
Sure. You know, I would second everything that Nicole has said. I've wanted to be an astronaut for as long as I can remember, and I was inspired by the books and movies that I saw when I was young. But it was second grade when the teacher brought out the television, rolled the television into our classroom, and we watched that first launch of the space shuttle in 1981. That gave me this insight that this was something that was possible, that was actually possible to do. And so growing up, I read every book about astronauts and NASA that I could get my hands on, and there was no internet back in that day, so so I had to figure out what that path looked like. And our early astronauts all came from a flying background, test pilot background, and so I decided that is what I wanted to do. My dad was in the Air Force, and I had, like Nicole, I had a desire to serve. And so I went to the Air Force Academy, but it's there that I actually discovered a passion for biology. And that desire to serve ultimately led for me to pursue medicine. And so I went to the University of Colorado for medical school and pursued emergency medicine up in Minnesota. And I was very passionate about that. But I still had this desire to be a part of NASA's human spaceflight mission. So I did a second residency in aerospace medicine and had the great fortune to get a job at Johnson Space Center as a flight surgeon. So I really want to underscore this idea that there is no one path to becoming an astronaut. It is about following this passion, and right now it's in those disciplines of science, technology, engineering, math. That is the language of spaceflight right now. But we have the opportunity. We just finished we're in the middle of a selection cycle of selecting new astronauts. And we have this incredible privilege of getting to choose from the very best that America has to offer, and from a whole number of disciplines. And so within our astronaut office, we have engineers, we have pilots, we have physicians and research scientists. So it really is about identifying what it is that gets you excited about learning and becoming the best at that if possible. So there's that passion element, but that is really supported by a hard work element. It takes an incredible amount of hard work to become the best at what you do. And so the joining of that passion with hard work, I think, is what has helped get most of us that have this privilege of working in human spaceflight here at NASA.
Awesome, thanks, Chell. Mr. Cabana, I don't want to forget about you. You are an astronaut. So any advice you'd also offer from your time in the Corps?
I'll echo everything they said. I had a path very similar to Nicole's. And I think the other thing I would add is persistence. Don't give up. Very few astronauts got selected on the first try. And if it's something you really believe in, and it's your passion, be persistent. Don't give up. But do something that you're passionate about so that you excel at it and you enjoy it. And if you don't make that next path, at least you're still contributing and doing something you enjoy.
Yeah, and I might get my facts here, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think that I heard from Leland Melvin yesterday that Peggy Whitson applied 13 times before she got into the astronaut corps. Is that anybody confirm that number? Anybody know? No. I think that's the number I heard. So again, if at first you don't succeed, that doesn't mean it's a closed door forever. Very cool. I think this question, it's really interesting. I think I'm going to throw this to you, Mr. Bridenstine. Obviously excited for this achievement for America tomorrow. But the question was, how does the rest of the world benefit from this moment for us? What's the benefit for other astronauts, for other nations to have America getting back to human spaceflight?
Yeah, so what this represents is a whole lot more seats going to space. So You know, we've had one launch provider for the last 9 years, and that was a Soyuz rocket. And now we're gonna go with as Bob said earlier, dissimilar redundancy. So we've got a new rocket, a new vehicle, and when we get Boeing off the ground, we'll have yet another rocket, another vehicle. So we're going to be able to maximize the utility of the International Space Station. And of course, the International Space Station, I guess the point to the question is, we have 15 nations that operate the International Space Station. 11 member states of the European Space Agency, Canada, Japan, Russia, the United States, and there's room for more. And when we go to the moon, we want to go to the moon with even more partners. We don't want to limit it just to the partners on the International Space Station. So, so with more seats means more partnership opportunities. It means that we can put more astronauts from other countries on these spacecraft, and of course, there's costs associated with that. But remember what we're trying to do. If we can have other countries buy seats on these rockets, it drives down the cost for the United States of America taxpayer. So I think what it does is it really opens up a lot more opportunity than we currently have. And so I think the model is also something we need to talk about. What is the business model, the public-private partnership, and how we go to the moon with international partners. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, not as easy as just saying, hey, let's work together.
Yeah.
There's a lot more details that go into it than that.
A little bit.
This question came to me. I'm going to read it as is, Mr. Cabana. This one's for you. It's a pretty broad question, so I'll let you take it whatever direction you want to. The question is just, what makes KSC so special?
Oh, gosh. Well, first off, this is where, America goes to space with humans. It's just absolutely, it's the location. But I think more than anything, it's the people, the dedicated workforce that's here. I have never been part of such an amazing team as I am here at the Kennedy Space Center. I just can't say enough good things about the people that work here. NASA's been #1 on the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey for 8 years in a row now, and KSC was #1 of the 10 NASA centers this last time around, and it's that kind of motivation. Everybody just comes to work with the goal in mind of making America's space program successful, and it's that positive attitude, it's that desire to excel at what you do. I think that's probably the most special thing about KSC. It's the people and the hardware. And I tell you, I've had the opportunity to work at a lot of NASA centers. I trained all over as an astronaut. I loved my time at JSC. I loved working in mission control. But here's where the hardware is. You can study things in books all you want. You can look at all the PowerPoint charts and pictures and diagrams in a book. But until you climb in and see the real hardware, that's when you really get to know it. And this is where the hardware is, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time space flight hardware shows up, it's an exciting day. All right, question for our astronauts. We'll start with you, Chell, and I'll make it a 2-part question, and it might be the same answer. What's the best part of being an astronaut, and what's your favorite memory of being an astronaut so far?
Oh, wow. The best part of being an astronaut. This is going to echo Director Cabana's sentiments a little bit. I think when we think about space flight and having this privilege of getting to work and serve as an astronaut, a lot of people will think about the rockets and the space station, the iconic spacesuit, and all of those things are great. It is absolutely amazing to get to interact and utilize that hardware. But fundamentally, it is the people. NASA draws the best and brightest that our country has to offer, and draws people from all over the world. The opportunity to work with NASA and to participate in this unifying mission of exploration of low Earth orbit and beyond. And now the mission, the Artemis program, to go back to the moon with the first woman and the next man and make that a permanent mission. Those are absolutely inspirational. And so to get to work with this workforce that is innovative and enthusiastic and so incredibly hardworking, I mean, that is, it inspires me, and it makes me want to come to work every day and do my very best so that I'm not letting this team down. So it's it really, the best part about being an astronaut is getting to work with this incredible team. My favorite memory, there's so many. You know, I think the spacewalk, the view from outside the space station, that first view of the Earth when I was launching that Soyuz rocket and looking out the window. And, you know, we've all seen the picture of the general Earth's arc, the horizon, but to see that with my own eyes, the bright light of the sun, that's something that I always remember. And then after a successful mission, I have to say, my return home, you know, coming back to the Earth safely and reuniting with my family. Those are all very special memories for me.
Awesome. Nicole, to you?
For me, I think it's really the best part about being an astronaut is just having the opportunity to give back to the legacy, right? Like Bob talked about, walking around KSC, there has been so many launches from KSC, from Apollo and early Gemini, Mercury, shuttle, everything. It's amazing to walk in the footsteps of the men and women who have built this space program, whether they be the astronauts here or the folks that work at KSC. And sometimes that is a heavy weight on your shoulders, but it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling because you're in a position to carry on that legacy and make a difference. And so, as we look forward to this commercial crew launch and Launch America, it's really that next step on that roadmap to the moon and the Artemis program. And to be able to be a part of that and to look at my son and the younger generation and say, you know what, we are going to lay the foundation for you to continue this exploration into space beyond my lifetime. And that's just really a privilege. As far as my proudest moment being an astronaut, I'd say so far it's being selected to be an astronaut. Certainly being selected to fly the commercial crew program. And I think come tomorrow when I watch SpaceX launch, that's probably going to be one of my proudest days as well.
Awesome. We're just about out of time, but I want to ask, just for real brief last comments from you all, just what's the one thing you're just really excited about tomorrow?
I'm really excited about Bob and Doug being safely placed into orbit. I think once they are safely in orbit and the nose cone is open, I think we're going to breathe a sigh of relief. I think the next day when they dock to the International Space Station, we're going to breathe another sigh of relief, and then they're going to get to work, and then we're going to anxiously anticipate their return. So I'm most looking forward to them being safely placed into orbit, and then I can breathe easy.
Cool, good. Nicole?
Absolutely. I mean, clear skies and a smooth launch is really what we're looking for. Safety is paramount, and I know that NASA and SpaceX have done everything they can do to mitigate the risk, and so we're looking forward to a successful launch tomorrow.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to those clear skies. Mr. Bridenstine, we need to work on technology to make the weather better. That's
Oh, we got it. We got it.
That's what I like to hear. Confidence.
We're NASA.
Chill?
The safe launch, absolutely. Seeing Bob and Doug safely in orbit, watching them dock with the space station, and watching them reunite with their good friends that are currently on the space station. I am so excited for Bob and Doug for the many years that they have been involved in this program, working hard to achieve this goal. So excited for their family and excited for SpaceX, for the incredible work that they have invested, that whole workforce has invested in making this day possible, for the NASA team that has partnered alongside with them, and then for America, to watch this beautiful rocket with our heroes on board flying into low Earth orbit from Kennedy Space Center. It's going to be phenomenal.
Mr. Cabana?
So I'm going to echo all their comments, and I'm going to say I'm going to really be excited for the commercial crew program, for the team that has made this possible. This is a very critical test flight, and we're going to learn a lot from it. But seeing Bob and Doug safely on orbit will bring a sigh of relief for me. But as with the administrator, I'm not going to feel totally good until they're back home safe on the ground after a fully successful mission, start to finish. But when I look at the partnership that we have across all the NASA centers, I mean, the commercial program, it's here at KSC, it's at JSC, folks from Marshall Health, Langley, everybody has played a role. The NASA engineering team that has worked with SpaceX, the partnership that we have to get to where we are, I'm really excited for that team to see the fruits of all their hard work these past many years to make to bring this to a successful flight tomorrow. So we'll breathe a lot easier once they're safely on orbit.
Yeah, certainly a lot of hard work, a lot more hard work to go. Want to thank the four of you, especially for your time. I know you're busy. We got a rocket to fly. So for those joining us online, thank you. Appreciate all the questions. Please continue to engage with us online through social media. Make sure you tune in as we proceed through the next day or so, getting ready for this flight. And at 12:15 tomorrow afternoon Eastern Time, we will be kicking off our launch broadcast. Lots of coverage, including the crew suit-up and walkout all the way through flight into orbit and beyond. That's all for us here at the Kennedy Space Center. I'm Joshua Santora, and reminding you always that the sky isn't the limit.